Hello, welcome back again to another video doing Steam games in alphabetical order. This is 183,587 games now on Steam. This is the fourth one, Duet, which is a demo. We're going to actually show the complete game. There's going to be a few videos as there's a lot to this game. It was released in 2015 by Kumobius, which is a Melbourne, Australia-based company. It's a mobile port. It sells for $7.50 and it has 76 achievements. In this video, we're just going to concentrate on the 9-story chapter, the story mode of the game. And in other videos, we'll look at other features of the game. So let's get straight into it. This is Duet. It's about two rotating balls tethered to each other that have to avoid obstacles. 9 chapters. The first chapter is Ignorance.
It's so good to see you. Stay close to me and don't touch anything.
Each chapter has several levels and all the levels are narrated. The whole idea is to avoid the obstacles coming down so that neither ball hits the obstacles.
You will need a circular state of mind.
On the left you'll see the number 9 in a triangle. That means I can get through this puzzle with 9 moves minimum. And if I achieve that, then I get a perfect rating on this. You can get that on every level. All it is bragging rights. It doesn't open anything else up.
This will be easy. Just hold left.
So this level shows that the person trying to comfort us has already been through this obstacle course before us.
Never give up.
Each chapter is based on the works of Elisabeth Ross, who is a doctor who wanted to improve patient conditions for those terminally ill.
Some things are worth fighting for.
So she wrote a book that detailed the 5 stages of grief to those who were going through terminal loss illness. The second phase out of the 5 stages was denial.
Full of unexpected twists and turns.
So to her, everyone felt that they were immortal, and when they were faced with their mortality,
Tread carefully and control yourself.
they would originally deny it. They'd say, well, evidently my test results have been mixed up with someone else. That can't be me. And this was one reason of going through grief. Or one stage of going through grief. Each chapter also introduces a new mechanic. Like in this one, it's rotating blocks. So
It is normal.
So if you liken one of the balls as the mourner, who is us, the other ball
You do not deny it.
is the voice that you hear, who is repeating the words of Elisabeth Ross in her book, and we'll liken that as the comforter. Now later on in the book, it even though it was originally written for those who were terminally ill, it was lengthened out to those that were surviving survivors of those taking care of those who were terminally ill, to any type of loss, like a loss of job, loss of an amputated appendage. So the third stage was anger.
Even in chaos.
So she originally interviewed about 200, some sources say thousands of people, those that are terminally ill, and the third stage was anger, that they'd be angry as to why me? Why couldn't it be him? Why am I the one having all this happen to me?
This need not define you.
Ultimately, her interviews, while they are interesting, I wouldn't say they're
Let it amplify you.
groundbreaking. I've read her book, and it's largely criticised as being not holding much merit. There was no...
Repeating the same action but expecting new results is a sign of madness.
Even when you're interviewing people, you got to be careful of bias and other things and trying to put your own slant of ideas through. None of it which was controlled. So in this stage, which is the fourth,
It's also a sign that you are human.
she believed that people would then try and barter or bargain, like they'd be like a child with a father. If you do this, I'll do this for you. She believed that
Once an action is done, it cannot be undone.
a lot of people would, when faced with their own terminal illness, would try and barter with God. Please give me a bit more life time so I can do this, and I will do this for you.
You cannot get out of this.
All the bargaining statements to her, no one was legitimate. It was all superficial. But again, as studying,
Accept the situation and move on.
the whole thing is superficial, so I'm not sure why this was included. The 5 stages of grief was included in this. Did the developers of Kumobius, did that book particularly touch them? The developers don't say. You know, what loss were they going through which made them want to include that book in their game? And again, I guess it depends on what you, the player, what loss you're going through, as to whether you'll have a different experience to anyone else playing this game. And if you're not going through any loss at the moment, then the statements being made by the comforter is superficial and fitting for the game itself, the game mechanics of, such as, why keep doing the same thing and expect different results? That statement perfectly fits the narration of the obstacle game itself, and so forth. So, yeah.
The things we do.
Another thing I need to talk about is the music by Tim Schul. Tim Schul is also, I believe, from Melbourne, Australia. He's done a wonderful job on the soundtrack, and in fact, it really fits the game. Sometimes I just relaxed and just played the game, just listening to the music. He even did a concert.
Others may try to make you feel guilty.
He even did a concert live while somebody played the game. That's how popular he was as a musician. Something I don't understand about this company is, so what's the difference between this and the mobile port? The PC version is actually superior. Other than that, it's very superficial differences, but it is a superior version, both in response and in graphics. And here's the strange thing, it's cheaper. But instead of concentrating on PC games, Kumobius is basically just does mobile games. As far as I'm aware, this is the only game of their mobile that they have ported to Steam, and it comes off really well.
What exactly are you trying to prove?
So what was the guilt phase? Maybe the guilt phase is, there seems to be a few more stages added into this. I don't know if they're added from later books from Elisabeth Ross, but I'm guessing the guilt phase is if only I had tested myself earlier, or maybe I shouldn't have left them in such a mess, or something along those lines.
Misery. Was it worth it?
The book finishes off with the stage of acceptance, and that's when a terminally ill person has accepted.
To keep going.
And that's hard for the loved ones because they might resent the person for having accepted death, because they want to keep them around, and that's one of the most difficult. So the game actually steeps in difficulty at this level in hope and acceptance. So what I've done is I've slowed it down by 50% so you can actually see what's going on, or it would just be a blur and you wouldn't really appreciate what's going on. Unfortunately, the game, for achievement hunters, they might want to miss this one, as there's a lot of aggravating grinding achievements. For instance, each chapter has an achievement where you have to get through the entire chapter without taking any hits. So if a chapter has 13 levels in it, you've got to go through the whole 13 levels without making a mistake. And that's hard because what you will see later on. There's other achievements where which will feature in the next video, where you've got to go through 1,000 waves. That just takes, it's a lot of grinding to do that. So if you're an achievement hunter who likes to keep their 100% success rate, you might want to give this one a miss. But if grindy achievements don't affect you, you can actually do that. There is a way to also slow down the mechanics of the game as well, so you can get around it that way as well if you really want to. As I said, I really like the music, and this is probably one of my favourite soundtracks. And with a slower sort of down rate, it's actually quite relaxing just to play it. The controls are just left and right mouse button, which feels intuitive in comparison to touchscreen. I have both versions, and touchscreen's a lot more harder. So in the book, as I said, there wasn't really much. I wouldn't say there was anything groundbreaking new. Some of the interviews were quite interesting that she interviewed people on. There was one where a guy was paralyzed, and his wife also became paralyzed, and he originally wanted to die, but after his wife died, he eventually wanted to keep living. And this is because he had a way of communicating to people even though he was paralyzed, and he still had cognitive abilities, and he thought that him just dying was a waste, and he wanted to live. Where the doctor treating him at that present point in time, before he could communicate, did not know whether his patient wanted to live or not. And so it's interesting how that person changed. So on the outside, like even according to his doctor, his patient didn't have quality of life, where later on through communication they realized that the patient felt that he still had enough quality of life to want to keep living. And as I said, it finishes off on acceptance. So some people find it hard to understand why the surviving members find it hard why their family members keep fighting, why they've given up. And sometimes they can be resentful instead of just embracing it. Sometimes those that are terminally ill want their family members to move on. So there's a lot of interesting messages like that. It's a bit of a, I guess a bit of a touchy subject, or forlorn subject. But Elisabeth Ross was under the impression that the way a person ends is just as important as their birth. And so I guess even though this level was inspired with the disappearing bricks, with that of Tetris, it's also fitting because it's all about accepting
You wouldn't be here if it weren't for me.
that you're going to disappear. That, people are going to reach out and you're not going to be around. And it's accepting that fact. So it's kind of fitting that the last level, and you can see I've died here, so I'm only showing you the ones where I can actually get through the whole level without crashing.
Admit it.
And that's what I said. It's interesting that the choice of these developers is to put the 5 stages of grief by Elisabeth Ross through their obstacle course game. And while it seems to have some deep and meaningful experience, it would largely depend on what you go through personally. To some degree, that's going to be superficial if you haven't experienced any loss. But the point of the matter is, most of us have had lost someone in our life, or we've experienced loss in some other ways. And so, again, have you experienced that where you have denied it? Have you been angry? Have you tried to bargain your way around it? Have you then accepted and moved on?
Nothing to regret.
So in other videos, there's sort of like a prequel and sequel story to this. There is also the challenge mode, which has a secret level added, which I will probably show off next chapter. Sorry, the videos are taking some time. Sometimes the games, there's a lot involved in them, and for me to 100% the game and to show you completely everything going on, it takes me some time to get through the game itself. But there is a lot going in this game. Not only is there the achievements, but there's also the ability of getting through every single level using the limited amount of moves as possible in order to perfect each level. And as I said, that particular thing isn't with achievements, but it's just there for bragging rights. So now we're coming to the conclusion of the game. It's saying that acceptance is part of letting go. You've accepted it. There's nothing you can do about it. What's important is that I guess the family members that survive. Sometimes when doing minimal amount of moves, you'll have to do a double rotation. And sometimes you'll have to do a sort of a feint and then go the opposite way.
You must move forward.
So now we're introduced in the last level to all the game mechanics that we've been introduced to over the 9 levels, 9 story chapters. Most story chapters have at least 6 levels to them. I guess this game is all about memory and timing and reactions.
But I want you to know one last thing.
Now the book also concludes on this. Basically, when it comes to with everyone Elisabeth Ross interviewed, the important thing of when they were in that dying state was that someone was there with them. That was it. Especially if they had accepted it, they just wanted someone there to hold their hand, someone there just to be there in the last sort of moments of their life. And that's what the game finishes on. The comforter wants the mourner to know she is there with them.
I am here.
So, has that had a profound experience on you? As I said, it depends on what you're going through. But it is noble just to remember that if there is someone dying in your life, just be there for them. This was by Kumobius, Ivan Neeson, 3 developers, Tom Greenway, who I believe is in France now, and did the programming, James Greenaway, which did a lot of the art. I'm not sure who Owen Thompson is, Thomas. Tim Shield, the sound, he's principally the one behind the sound. The voice, the one you fell in love with, Jojo Petrina. Additional piano and lap steel guitar there in the challenge modes, the additional music. So I'll feature that next video. So as I said, there was only 3 developers, but there was additional people that helped out. Okay, and that's Duet. That's the complete story mode. They're the main people that you need to know about. So Kumobius is Melbourne, Australia. As I said, they mainly just deal with, they were founded in 2011 and they deal with mobile games. And there's your 3 people. And this is their website. They've got 6 games on their website. Duet is probably the most famous and well known. Wall Kickers. Just have a quick look at this one. So it's just a bouncy wall jumper. Yeah, I can see it's like Super Meat Boy or something. Okay. And this is the other thing, they haven't actually boxed themselves in. Like this is a tile slider, nothing like a Duet, nothing like. But there's nothing really interesting here, so it's very, very basic. High rises, from what I can understand, is basically your character will change direction when he hits a wall. So the idea is to stay in the maze and not fall out the maze, I'm guessing. I wouldn't mind playing this one, so I hope they do bring that to Steam. Basketball is a cut the rope game. I actually do enjoy these. This one seems like they've done a pretty good versatile sort of namaste. So that looks actually quite fun. Time server, I'm not really understanding this one. And that's it. And as I said, Duet is probably their most superior game so far, and the only one they've brought to PC as far as I know.
I've been your host, Freddie Fuego. I'm James.
So this is James Greenaway. He's the artist.
This is an interview for
Here's the three founders of Kumobius. So Ivan Neeson on the left, James in direct centre, and Tom Greenaway, who I believe is in France now. The brother, he's the chief programmer, I guess. I like his t-shirt, just do it. So Tim Schul, his picture is on the right hand side there. He's from Melbourne, Australia. You can buy the vinyl if you want. And on the soundtrack cover, you can see there's a red ball and a blue ball. In the red ball is a man, which seems to indicate that we were the red ball. The blue ball was the comforter, who was Jojo Petrina. This is what she looks like. So if you fell in love with the voice while you were playing the game, this is the person you're in love with. You're in love with her voice, but you're also in love with the words of Elisabeth Ross, who looks like this. Well, she's dead now. She died from strokes and from complications involving infections. Died of natural causes, but she actually wrote this book on death and dying. This is where she put the 5 stages of loss. And she wanted to teach doctors, nurses, clergy, and their own family members how to take care of the dying. And this is where she had the 5 stages of grief. Nowadays, it is criticised as being outdated information, as well as unhelpful in explaining the grieving process. Her process was denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and a last one was acceptance. But if you want to look at that information, just go to Wikipedia, 5 stages of grief. And I just want to show that I have actually perfected every single level. Some levels were quite hard, so you might want to check this game out. $7.50 on Steam if you don't mind really hard achievements. Until next time, bye for now.